welcome back to my channel, Caribbean Hot Topics. And today we are headed over to the beautiful island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we'll be discussing the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, and his many accusers. Yes, and if you don't know, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves is currently serving his 5th consecutive term as Prime Minister, even though his name has been dragged through the mud with so many scandalous accusations of sexual misconduct and even rape. And let us not forget that voice note that was circulating a number of years back that I'm yet to recover from, where he was allegedly having phone intercourse. Yep, phone intercourse with a young lady. And when he was asked by media personnel, Ralph, what was that you on the voice note? He hit them with a shaggy. He was like,
it wasn't me.
But the person mentioned coming from Parliament, and you talked about calling her before Parliament or after Parliament or something like that. And he just denied.
It wasn't me.
Basically, I guess he's implying that it was someone impersonating him. And if it was, that person did an excellent job because it sounded just like him. But the Prime Minister is not going to go down that easily. He is not going down that easily. You need to bring evidence. You need to bring video proof. You have it on video. But I'm sure if they brought it on video, he would still be like,
it wasn't me.
We're just going to leave that alone. Whether you believe it to be him or not, we're just going to leave that alone. But today we're actually going to be talking about a number of women who came forward and accused the Prime Minister of sexual misconduct, and there was even one accusation, at least one that I'm aware of. Actually two, of rape. So we're going to start off with the case of Margaret Parsons. I'm going to be covering at least 3 of the accusers' allegations. However, it is alleged that there are more women out there, but I just couldn't find the details of the allegations. So we're just going to cover these 3 women. And we're starting off with Margaret Parsons, who is a Canadian human rights lawyer of Vincentian descent. Now, Margaret alleges that she was attacked by the Prime Minister in January of 2003 when she had an appointment with him and went to his office to discuss plans for constitutional reform. Now, according to an article in the L.A Times that was published in 2008, Ms. Parsons alleges in a phone interview that just a short few minutes into her conversation with the Prime Minister, he lunged at her, groped her, ripped her blouse, and attempted to rape her on his office couch before she was able to get away and get out of there. But I was able to find a video clip of Ms. Parsons sharing her experience. Take a listen and we're going to get back to the video.
So, Ms. Parsons, tell us how the exchange was with the Prime Minister. How was it when you first met him?
It was a very, very disturbing experience. I went in there, as I said, hoping that I would be having a discussion with a Prime Minister, a man of his stature, thinking I would be having an exchange with another lawyer, another professional, and before I knew it, I was being sexually assaulted by Prime Minister Gonsalves. I was very, very taken aback, very, very shocked by his behavior, his undignified behavior for a man of his profession, but also in the office that he was holding, a very high-ranking office in his country, that he would behave in such a way.
So, Margaret, can you describe in detail exactly what happened that day with the Prime Minister?
Sure. After sitting in his office, in the reception area of his office, I was invited in. I sat down. He was behind his desk, and I sat in front of his desk. He took a few phone calls. I think one from his wife and one from colleagues, friends. I don't know who they were. So we started talking. I started expressing my idea about the promotion of human rights in the country. Then he came around the desk and he held my hand and sort of gesturing to stand up. So I thought, because there was a long sort of boardroom table near the window, so I thought maybe we're going over and it would have been more, he felt more suitable to have the discussion at that table. And it was at that point he started to grab at my breast and tried to kiss me. And I said, Mr. Prime Minister, can you please stop? He then started to say, oh, you women are so irresistible. You're so, beautiful. And I said, I'm not here for any of this. Please stop. I asked him repeatedly to stop. He then went on to say, don't resist. You'll enjoy it. And at that point, I had to push him away very hard and run out of his office.
There you have it. If you want to watch the full interview, I'm going to link it in the description below, as well as a link to the L.A Times article. But there are a number of things that I want to highlight. Now, I am not going to be making an assumption of whether or not she's telling the truth, but I'm going to try my best to be as unbiased as possible. Now, I'm a woman, so I tend to try to give women the benefit of the doubt. But we've seen over the years a lot of women have been very dangerous in accusing men of sexual misconduct and so forth when it's completely made up. So I'm not saying that this is the case here. I'm just putting that out there. But there are a number of things that I thought was a bit interesting. The first thing being, based on my research, it appears as though initially when she first laid out her accusations, she said this happened in January 2004. When in fact it was in January 2003 is when she actually visited the Prime Minister. Now, I don't find that to be that big a deal. I mean, it's just, sometimes we mess up between a year or two, so we normally say, it was around 03, 04, or whatever the case is. So I didn't find that to be that important. However, what I found interesting is that in the L.A. Times article, the description of the interaction between Ms. Parsons and the Prime Minister was very violent. She said he lunged at her, he tore her blouse, he groped at her. And compared to this interview now, where it's, he grabbed my hand and motioned for me to stand up, and I thought he was taking me to this other table. And he tried to grab my breast, or he grabbed her breast and tried to put his hands down her dress, and things like that. It's a very different description. Granted, it's still sexual assault, but it's still a very different description of what happened. Lunged to hold, held my hand and motioned for me to stand is very different, very different. So it made me raise an eyebrow, to be very honest. It really did. Another thing that stood out to me was that if you listen to the entire interview, which is linked in the description, she indicated that she remembers exactly what she was wearing. She was wearing a dress. Whereas in the L.A. Times interview, she mentioned having on a blouse that was torn by the Prime Minister. Slight difference. In addition to that, this particular interview, the interviewer asked her, were there any bruises or anything physical to support what she's saying, and she said there was no bruising. However, he was trying to put his hand under her dress, which I found interesting that she never mentioned any of her clothing being torn, and it makes me wonder if her clothing was in fact torn and she was leaving his office. Why, wasn't anyone else around to notice that there was something, that she was disheveled? Did she not speak to anybody else? But you can't really. I guess it's unfair to ask that question because you never really know how a person would react in a situation, especially if they're shocked by what took place. And sometimes many victims of sexual abuse, they tend to be embarrassed by what happened, so they try to hide it, or they don't want to come right out and say whatever. So I guess I can't really rely too heavily on that. But there are a number of inconsistencies that would make anyone raise their eyebrow. Now, the Prime Minister didn't come out and actually address it directly per se, but his lawyers did, and basically indicated that this did not happen. She came to speak to the Prime Minister about, acquiring land. There was an officer on foot patrol. There are people that she could have spoken to, and basically indicating that it's fabricated, and the fact that she's a human rights lawyer means that her words shouldn't be trusted. However, Miss Parsons, she filed a criminal complaint, and that was dismissed. It didn't go anywhere. And I'm going to get a little bit more into why it was dismissed and why it didn't go anywhere. But what I also found interesting is that if she was making such an allegation against the Prime Minister and did it so boldly and on video, knowing fully well that if she's making a false claim, she can be held accountable, be sued for libel, and she still did it, kind of makes me wonder. And I also wonder, why didn't the Prime Minister sue her? But, I'm not here to make any judgments on that. But Miss Parsons came forward because of another young lady that was very public about her experience, her alleged experience with the Prime Minister. And because she came out and spoke publicly and tried to take the matter to court and things like that, it empowered other women to come forward. And that is how a series of complaints started coming in after this young lady. So I'm about to get into that case. So Michelle Andrews was a woman police constable assigned to the St. Vincent Police Services. And it is alleged that sometime in January 2008, she was assigned to work security detail for the Prime Minister at his mansion. It is further alleged that while working there, sometime in the middle of the night, the Prime Minister came down indicating that he was unable to sleep. And so he proceeded to speak with her, and she was very excited that the Prime Minister is speaking with her. She's getting an opportunity to speak one-on-one with the Prime Minister. He then asked her to walk with him, and they started walking and talking about various things. It is further alleged that the Prime Minister started making advances towards her, which she indicated that she was not interested in, and further told him that his wife is upstairs. That didn't deter the Prime Minister, allegedly, as he continued to make his sexual advances towards her, groping her, etc., until he eventually disrobed her and raped her. That is the allegation against the Prime Minister. Now, it is said that Michelle Andrews reported the matter the same day to her supervisor, and nothing was really done about it. The following day, she reported it to the commissioner after recognizing that the supervisor didn't handle the matter. And again, there weren't any progress. And so after a month of nothing happening in her eyes, she proceeded to seek private legal counsel to file charges against the Prime Minister. And so that was done. And guess what? 4 days after she filed those charges with her private lawyer, the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecution, stepped in, took over the case, and dismissed it. That's right, you heard me correctly. So apparently there's a law in St. Vincent that allows the DPP to be able to take over any private case and do whatever he wants with it. And so after that was filed with the court, he went in and told the judge that he will be taking over matters from here, took over the case, and then told the judge he's no longer pursuing the matter. And so she never got her day in court because the DPP, who is a very good friend of the Prime Minister, handled it. She filed an appeal and a judicial review, and again, nothing was done. The judges stated, well, the DPP was, he has all rights to do that, and, that's just what it is. And so she never got her voice heard. She never got her day in court. This also happened to Ms. Parsons. After the situation with Michelle, Parsons came out, like I mentioned earlier, and she also filed a criminal complaint against the Prime Minister, and the DPP swooped in and got rid of that as well. So nothing ever happened with those cases, and slowly but surely, persons began to forget, which is really unfortunate because if it did happen to her, she should have been allowed to have her case heard and let the Prime Minister stand in the court and defend himself. If he has nothing to hide, let her go to court. But that's what happened. And let's fast forward now to 2016, when Miranda Woods came forth when the Prime Minister was in New York having a town hall meeting. She stood up and she said, Mr. Prime Minister, do you remember when I was 15 years old and came to your office? Hear it here for yourself.
I'm representing Vincent, and I have concerns about what's going on in and especially for young women who have been raped 15 years old. When I walk into your
Yes, she was very bold, and that's what she said. And of course, you see that the audience is jeering at her and, admonishing her for what she said. But she boldly stated, or boldly alleged, that that is what happened to her as a teenager. Now, it is said that ever since he had been accused by Miss Parsons, who is from Canada, he has never stepped foot in Canada again. I don't know how true that is, but that's what they said. And it is further alleged that ever since Miranda Woods confronted him at that town hall meeting in New York, whatever province, wherever this meeting was, it is alleged that ever since that happened, he never went there again. And so he hosted another town hall meeting elsewhere. And guess who showed up? Miranda showed up, and she went to the mic and she said it again. And it was done in front of cameras this time. I was trying to find the video footage of that one. Can't find it anywhere. Surprise, surprise. So, of course, you know that his supporters, the Prime Minister's supporters, are going to do their research on this young lady after making such an accusation in front of so many persons. And, yes, listen, I don't know which detective went through these files, but they were able to find a picture of the same lady attending previous town hall meetings. And here's one of the pictures. Now look, I don't know what this means, but the L.A Times actually had an interview with one of the Prime Minister's lawyers. And you know what they said in that interview? They basically laughed off the allegation, saying, oh, that was 20, 30 years ago. As if it means that because so much time has passed that it is not significant, And then he further went on to say, oh, the Prime Minister is a very touchy-feely guy. You know what we call him here in St. Vincent? We call him Hugginston Kissinger, because he likes to greet people with a hug and a kiss. What? Excuse me? You keep your crusty lips to yourself, sir. You don't come kissing me, hugging me. I don't want. Shake hands. Shake hands, okay? That is how you greet people. You shake their hands. And make it worse, there are so many persons alleging that you have done awful things to them. They've accused you of sexual misconduct. Maybe you should hold back on the hugging and the kissing. You know what I mean? Like, shake people's hands, especially after all the accusations. And I don't find that to be something to be funny, because it just makes me wonder, well, if he's so huggy and kissy, then who's to say he wasn't trying to stick his tongue down these young ladies' throats for real? Because the lawyer, if Miss Parsons, if you watch the full interview, she mentioned that he tried to kiss her. Ugh. So, you know, you know what? Anyway. So those are the cases that were laid against the Prime Minister. It didn't hold him back one bit, because it seemed as though after every scandal that came out, the next election he comes bigger and better and stronger than ever. So I don't know what that means for the electorate, because they're certainly not punishing him in any way. He's winning bigger and bigger every time. But you know what? It is what it is. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe if you haven't done so already, share the video, comment, and thank you. Until next time, bye!